Hello, my dear witches and wizards. Welcome back to another evening of stories and magic. I'm so glad you've joined me tonight. This evening, we're staying at Hogwarts during the Easter holidays, a time when the castle grows quiet, the corridors stretch empty and echoing, and only a handful of students remain behind. It's a rare opportunity to explore, to breathe, to discover corners of the castle you've never noticed when the halls are full of rushing feet and chattering voices. Tonight, you'll spend your days in the library, stumble upon an ancient mystery, and find something you never expected. A chamber hidden by the founders themselves, a place that appears only twice a year, and a truth about your own magic that changes everything. So find somewhere comfortable, let the world outside fade away, and prepare yourself for a journey through seasons, secrets, and self-discovery. Grab your wand, take a deep breath, and let's begin. The Great Hall feels different when it's nearly empty. You notice this immediately as you step through the tall double doors on the first day of Easter holiday. Your footsteps echoing against stone in a way they never do when hundreds of students fill the space with noise and motion and life. Today, there are perhaps 15 students scattered across a single long table, all four houses mixed together because there's no point in separation when you could fit everyone at a sideboard. The enchanted ceiling shows a soft gray sky, clouds drifting lazily, and though it's meant to reflect the weather outside, it feels more like a gentle blanket has been draped overhead. You slide onto the bench beside Teddy Whitmore, your best friend since first year, and he grins at you with that warm, easy smile that always makes you feel like everything's going to be fine. He's wearing one of his older brother's hand-me-down sweaters, the Hufflepuff yellow slightly faded but still bright enough to suit him. His dark brown skin glows in the soft light from the floating candles, and there's a smudge of what looks like jam on his collar. 2 weeks, Teddy says, reaching for a roll. 2 whole weeks with barely any homework. Can you believe it? You consider this as you spoon some soup into your bowl, watching the steam curl upward. 2 weeks. Your parents are in Norway, mediating some complicated dispute involving a colony of magical creatures whose habitat was disturbed by a rogue wizard's expansion charms. Dangerous work, important work. They'd apologized profusely in their letter, explaining that they couldn't come home, that you'd need to stay at Hogwarts, that they'd make it up to you in the summer. But honestly, you'd felt a flicker of relief when you'd read those words. The castle at the holidays has always intrigued you. You've heard older students mention it, the particular silence, the way the magic feels more present somehow, when fewer people are around to dilute it with their noise and need and teenage chaos. What should we do? Teddy continues, his enthusiasm infectious. We could finally explore that corridor on the 5th floor, the one that always smells like cinnamon. Or we could try to map the grounds properly. Or we could just sleep until noon every day and see what happens. That last one sounds appealing, you admit, tasting your soup. It's tomato, rich and warm, with just a hint of basil. But also boring, Teddy points out. Down the table, you spot Vivian Ashcroft sitting alone at the far end, a thick book propped open beside her plate. She's a 5th-year Slytherin, and you know her primarily as your academic rival. You're constantly tied for top marks in most of your classes, and there's an unspoken tension between you, a competition neither of you has ever acknowledged aloud, but both of you feel keenly. She's tall, with sharp features and dark hair, pulled back in a sleek ponytail that never seems to come loose no matter how much she moves. Even now, during the holidays when most students are in comfortable, worn clothing, she looks perfectly put together. Closer to you sits Pip Honeycutt, a second-year Gryffindor with a round, freckled face and hair that sticks up in the back. He's pushing food around his plate without eating much, and you can see the homesickness in the way his shoulders curve inward. His parents are curse breakers in Egypt, you'd heard, away on some extended assignment. At the table's midpoint, Margot Wren, a sixth-year Hufflepuff prefect, has spread out a color-coded study schedule and is making notes with fierce concentration. Her quill moves in quick, precise strokes, and you can see the stress in the tightness around her eyes. Newts, you think. She'd stayed specifically to study without distraction. We should go outside, Teddy suggests. Enjoy the grounds while they're empty. You finish your soup and follow him out after lunch, but it quickly becomes clear that outside isn't much of an option. The spring rains have turned the grounds into a muddy mess, and even the covered walkways are damp and cold. The lake looks gray and uninviting, and the forest is shrouded in mist. Library, Teddy suggests without much enthusiasm. Library, you agree. The library has always been one of your favorite places in the castle, and as you push open the heavy doors, you feel something in your chest ease. The familiar smell of old parchment, leather bindings, and the particular dust that only accumulates on books washes over you. Afternoon light filters through the high windows, illuminating floating dust motes that drift like lazy snow. Madam Whitlock is at her desk, her silver hair pulled into its usual tight bun, reading spectacles dangling from a chain around her neck. She glances up as you enter, nods once, and returns to whatever ledger she's examining. Margot Wren is already here, naturally, set up at a table in the corner with what looks like an entire textbook's worth of notes spread around her. She doesn't look up as you pass. You and Teddy find a table near one of the tall windows. Teddy pulls out his Transfiguration textbook with a sigh that seems to come from his soul, and you wander toward the shelves, running your fingers along the spines. You're not looking for anything in particular, just browsing, letting your mind drift. That's when your hand stops on a book you don't recognize. The spine is dark green, worn smooth with age, and the gold lettering has faded to the point where you have to squint to read it. A History of Hogwarts, Lesser-Known Chambers and Spaces. Something about it calls to you, a pull you can't quite name, and you slide it free from between its neighbors. The book is heavier than it looks. You carry it back to the table and set it down with a soft thump that makes Teddy look up from where he's been staring blankly at a diagram of a tortoise. Find something interesting? He asks, hopeful for any distraction. Maybe, you say, opening the cover. The pages are thick, slightly yellowed, and covered in dense text interspersed with detailed drawings. You flip through slowly, scanning chapter titles. The Lost Passage of Ravenclaw Tower, Hufflepuff's Hidden Kitchens, Beyond the Barrels, Slytherin's Subterranean Studies, The Mirror Rooms of the Fourth Floor. Most of these places, according to the text, have been discovered or destroyed or sealed off for safety reasons. But as you continue turning pages, a passage near the back catches your eye. Someone has marked it with faded ink, a small star drawn in the margin. You read it once, then again more slowly. The Chamber of Seasons appears only during equinoxes, training ground created by the founders for advanced magical practice. Designed to push students beyond standard curriculum, each season tests different magical skills. Last confirmed entry, 1952. Location remains unknown, sought by scholars but never conclusively found, leading many to conclude it is apocryphal. Your heart does a small, unexpected flip. "Teddy," you say quietly. He looks up again, and something in your voice makes him set down his quill. "What?" You turn the book so he can see, pointing to the passage. He leans in, his eyes moving across the words, and you watch as his expression shifts from mild interest to something brighter. "Training ground," he reads aloud. "Advanced magical practice. That sounds incredible." You pull the book back, scanning the text again. It says it appears during equinoxes. You pause, your mind calculating. "The spring equinox was 3 days ago," Teddy's eyes widen. "Wait, does that mean it might be accessible right now?" You finish. "If it exists." For a moment, you both just sit there, the possibility hanging between you like a held breath. Around you, the library continues its quiet existence. Margot's quill scratching, a book's pages turning somewhere in the stacks, Madame Whitlock's soft footsteps as she reshelves returns. "We have to look for it," Teddy says, and there's no question in his voice. "You should probably be more cautious. You should probably consider that it might be dangerous, that it's probably just a legend, that you have essays to write and spells to practice." But instead, you feel a thrill of excitement run through you, the kind you get when you're on the edge of discovering something real and true and previously unknown. "We need more information," you say, already standing. "Let's ask Madame Whitlock." The librarian looks up as you approach her desk, her sharp eyes taking in the book you're carrying. You set it down carefully, open to the page about the Chamber of Seasons. "Madame Whitlock," you begin, "have you ever heard of this? The Chamber of Seasons?" She leans forward slightly, adjusting her spectacles to read. For a long moment, she says nothing, and you wonder if she's going to tell you it's nonsense, to focus on your actual studies, to stop chasing fairy tales. Instead, she says, "The Chamber of Seasons, old legend. Most scholars believe it's myth. But has anyone looked for it recently?" You press. Her gaze sharpens, studying you with an intensity that makes you feel slightly transparent. "You're serious about this?" "Yes," you say simply. She pulls out a large ledger from beneath her desk, flipping through pages covered in cramped handwriting. "Last recorded search was 1978. They found nothing." She pauses, her finger resting on a particular entry. "But the equinox window lasts 2 weeks. If you're genuinely curious, I suppose researching castle history is educational." Your heart lifts. "So you may access some of the texts in the restricted section," she says, already standing. "For research purposes. Supervised research purposes, mind you. I'll pull what we have on Founders' architecture and hidden chambers." 10 minutes later, you and Teddy are sitting at your table, surrounded by books. Some are so old, you're afraid to turn the pages too quickly. Others are relatively new, academic texts with footnotes that reference footnotes. You divide them up and start reading, taking notes on spare parchment, looking for any mention of the chamber. You're so absorbed that you don't notice when someone approaches your table until a voice says, "What are you two researching?" You look up to find Vivian Ashcroft standing there, her arms crossed, her expression curious. "Nothing," Teddy says quickly. "Private project." But Vivian's eyes have already scanned the book titles spread across the table, and you see recognition flash across her face. "The Chamber of Seasons. Interesting choice." She pulls out the chair across from you and sits without invitation. "Highly theoretical." "We're just curious," you say, feeling defensive. "I've read about it too," Vivian continues, as if you haven't spoken. Most sources contradict each other. You'll never find it with just library research. She stands and walks away, her footsteps measured and precise, leaving you and Teddy staring after her. "She's so annoying," Teddy mutters. "Yeah," you agree. But even as you say it, a small voice in the back of your mind whispers, "But what if she's right?" The next few days blur together in a haze of research. You and Teddy spend every spare moment in the library, pulling books, cross-referencing sources, making notes that sprawl across multiple pieces of parchment. You start to feel like a detective, piecing together clues from fragments scattered across centuries. The references you find are maddeningly vague, sought by those with open hearts and curious minds. Hidden where seasons meet stone, appears in the watching place. Behind the lady who sees all. You write each phrase down carefully, trying to interpret them, but they feel like riddles without answers. Teddy grows increasingly frustrated, running his hands through his hair until it sticks up at odd angles. "This is impossible," he says on the third day. "These clues could mean anything." But you can't let it go. There's something about this mystery that has hooked into you, and you find yourself thinking about it even when you're supposed to be sleeping. Your mind turning over the phrases, trying to make them fit together. It's tucked into one of the older books, pressed between pages like someone wanted to hide it or keep it safe. A journal, small and leather-bound, the pages brittle with age. The handwriting inside is elegant but hurried, dated 1947. You read it aloud to Teddy, your voice soft in the quiet library. "I've been searching for 3 weeks now. The equinox is nearly over, and I'm running out of time. The founders created it to push students beyond standard curriculum, I'm certain of it. Each season tests different magical skills, but the chamber only reveals itself to those ready to learn, truly learn, not just to prove something or gain power. I wonder if that's why I can't find it. Am I ready? I thought I was, but perhaps the chamber knows better." The entry ends there, unfinished, the rest of the pages blank. "They never found it," Teddy says quietly. "But they believed it existed," you counter. "Really believed it." That evening, you and Teddy decide to start searching physically. You begin in the entrance hall, examining walls and portraits, looking for hidden doors or unusual markings. You test bricks, check behind tapestries, trace your fingers along the stones looking for anything that might trigger a mechanism. You're crouched beside a suit of armor, tapping the floor tiles, when a voice behind you says, "What are you doing?" You turn to find Pip Honeycutt watching you with wide, curious eyes. He's holding a small stuffed dragon, clutched against his chest like a comfort item. "Just looking around," Teddy says, standing up and brushing dust off his knees. "Can I help?" Pip asks eagerly. "I'm bored and everyone else is studying or sleeping." You exchange a glance with Teddy. Pip is young, only 12, but there's something earnest about him that's hard to refuse. "We're trying to find a secret room," you admit, "but we don't really know where to look." His face lights up. "A secret room. I'm good at finding things." The three of you search together, but as the minutes stretch into an hour, you find nothing. The entrance hall remains stubbornly normal, its stones and portraits giving up no secrets. You're about to suggest giving up for the night when Mr. Finch, the castle caretaker, walks through carrying a toolbox. He gives you all a look that's stern, but not unkind. "You three should be in your common room soon," he says. "Yes, sir," you chorus. He continues walking, but as he passes, you hear him mutter, just loud enough to catch. "Strange sounds from the upper floors during equinox. Always something odd in this castle." You freeze, his words echoing in your mind. Upper floors, not entrance hall. We've been looking in the wrong place, you say, turning to Teddy. The next day in the library, you're reviewing your notes, trying to focus on the phrase, the watching place, when a shadow falls across your table. Vivian Ashcroft is there again, but this time she doesn't leave. She sits down, pulls out a piece of parchment, and spreads it on the table. It's a hand-drawn map of Hogwarts, incredibly detailed, with notes written in her precise handwriting. You're still searching, she says. It's not a question. I've been watching your research strategy. It's adequate. Thanks, Teddy says, uncertain whether he's been complimented or insulted. I could help, Vivian continues. I've studied castle architecture. I know things you won't find in books. You study her carefully, trying to understand her angle. Why would you help us? For the first time since you've known her, Vivian looks uncomfortable. She glances away toward the library windows before meeting your eyes again. Because I'm staying here alone for 2 weeks and I'm bored, and because if the chamber exists, I want to see it too, test myself. There's something vulnerable in her admission, something that doesn't match the confident, competitive Vivian you're used to. You look at Teddy, who shrugs slightly, leaving the decision to you. Fine, you say, but we work together, equal partners. Agreed, Vivian says, and she almost smiles. Show me what you found. You spread out your notes, the clues you've gathered, the references and riddles. Vivian reads through everything methodically, her finger tracing lines of text, her expression thoughtful. When she reaches the phrase behind the lady who sees all, she stops. I know this, she says. There's a portrait of Lady Cassandra on the 4th floor. She's painted with dozens of eyes, floating around her like satellites. Students call her all-seeing Cassandra. Your breath catches. That has to be it. Teddy leans forward. The watching place, behind the lady who sees all. It fits. We search tonight, Vivian says, and there's excitement in her voice, barely contained. You feel it too, that thrill of being close to something, of pieces finally clicking together. The castle feels different at night. You've broken curfew before, of course, but never with such purpose. And as you climb the stairs to the 4th floor, your wand held low to light the way, you're hyper-aware of every sound, the distant snoring portraits, the creaking of old wood, the whisper of your own breathing. Teddy and Vivian are with you, all 3 of you moving carefully, alert for prefects or professors, or Finch making his rounds. But the castle seems empty, asleep, and you reach the 4th floor corridor without incident. The portrait of Lady Cassandra hangs between 2 tall windows. She's exactly as Vivian described, an elegant witch in elaborate robes, surrounded by floating eyes that drift around her like planets orbiting a sun. As you approach, all the eyes turn toward you simultaneously, and it's deeply unsettling. Students out of bed, the portrait says, her painted mouth curving into a knowing smile. Should I call a prefect? Your heart hammers, but you force yourself to speak steadily. We're looking for something, the Chamber of Seasons. The effect is immediate. All of Lady Cassandra's eyes focus on you with sudden, intense interest. The chamber? Her voice is softer now, curious. It's been decades since someone sought it seriously. Does that mean you know where it is? Vivian asks, and you can hear the controlled excitement in her voice. I know many things, the portrait says, but the chamber reveals itself only to those worthy of training beyond their years, those who seek knowledge not for glory or power, but for growth. How do we prove we're worthy? Teddy asks. Lady Cassandra's many eyes blink in sequence, like a wave. You already have, by seeking knowledge together, despite your differences. A Ravenclaw, a Hufflepuff, and a Slytherin. 3 houses, 3 perspectives, 1 goal. Very well. The wall beside the portrait begins to shimmer, like heat rising from stone. You watch, breathless, as a door materializes, appearing from nothing. It's ornate, carved with symbols you recognize. A flower for spring, a sun for summer, a leaf for autumn, a snowflake for winter. All 3 of you stand frozen for a moment, staring at what shouldn't exist, but does. Should we? You whisper. Vivian reaches for the handle. We've come this far. The door opens silently, revealing darkness beyond. You raise your wand higher, and the light spills into a chamber so vast and beautiful that for a moment you forget to breathe. The Chamber of Seasons is circular, its ceiling rising high above you, and it's divided into 4 distinct sections, each a complete, living environment. To your left, spring, a flowering meadow with grass so green it almost hurts to look at, gentle rain falling from an isolated cloud, the air warm and filled with the scent of growth. Plants bloom in fast motion, petals unfurling, vines climbing invisible trellises. Ahead, summer, a landscape of shimmering heat, bright sun beating down on sand and cacti and succulents, the air wavering with warmth, colors so vivid they seem painted. To your right, autumn, a forest floor covered in leaves of gold and crimson and amber, cool air carrying the scent of earth and decay, mist curling between trees, acorns dropping in a gentle, constant patter. Behind you, winter, snow covering everything, ice formations rising like sculptures, the air so cold you can see your breath, and above it all, an aurora dancing in greens and purples across an impossible sky. In the center of the room stands a stone pedestal, and on it rests an ancient book, its pages open. This is incredible, Teddy breathes, and his voice echoes slightly in the vast space. Vivian walks toward the pedestal, her footsteps careful, reverent. You and Teddy follow. The ceiling above shows all 4 seasons simultaneously, divided into quarters like the room itself, and you realize with a start that you can feel the temperature changing as you move. Warmer near spring and summer, cooler near autumn and winter. Vivian reads from the open book, her voice steady. Welcome, seekers. The Chamber of Seasons was created to train students in environmental magic. Each season presents unique challenges. Master them to discover your true magical affinity. It's a training room, you say, your mind racing. An advanced one. Where do we start? Teddy asks, looking between the 4 sections. You consider this, examining each environment. Summer looks intense, maybe dangerous with that heat. Winter is clearly the most challenging, cold and isolated. Autumn seems mysterious with all that mist. Spring, you decide. It seems the safest place to begin. The 3 of you approach the spring section together, and the moment you step across the invisible boundary, the temperature shifts. It's like walking from a cool room into warm sunshine, and the smell of flowers surrounds you, almost overwhelming in its sweetness. The grass beneath your feet is soft, real, and the rain that falls is gentle, barely more than mist. A voice echoes through the chamber, seeming to come from everywhere and nowhere. Spring, the season of growth and renewal. Your challenge, encourage life. The flowering meadow fades slightly, and you find yourselves standing before bare earth. In the center lies a single seed, dark and ordinary. We're supposed to make it grow? Teddy says. Vivian already has her wand out. Growth charms, basic herbology. She points her wand at the seed. Herbivicus. The seed twitches. A tiny sprout emerges, green and fragile, then stops growing. You try next, focusing your intention, picturing the plant growing strong and healthy. Herbivicus. The same result, a bit more growth, but still the plant remains small, incomplete, struggling. Teddy attempts it, and the plant grows taller, a few leaves unfurling, but still it's not enough. It looks weak, like it might wilt at any moment. We're missing something, you say, studying the plant. Spring isn't just about growth. It's about nurturing, about care. You look at Teddy and Vivian. Together? They understand immediately. All three of you raise your wands, pointing them at the seed. But this time, you're not thinking about making it grow through force. You're thinking about nurturing it, about providing what it needs, about gentle encouragement rather than magical pressure. Herbivicus, you say in unison. The plant responds. It grows steadily, leaves unfurling in healthy green spirals, a stem rising strong and straight, and then, at the top, a flower blooms, petals opening in shades of blue and white and gold. But more than that, the entire meadow around you bursts into fuller bloom, as if your success has awakened something dormant. The voice speaks again. Well done. You understand cooperation. The flower you grew together releases something, a small glowing seed that drifts down into your open palm. It's warm, pulsing gently, and as you close your fingers around it, you feel a sense of accomplishment that goes deeper than any test score ever has. Keep this, the voice says. It will guide you. You pocket the seed carefully, feeling its warmth through the fabric. One down, Vivian says, and she's smiling, really smiling, in a way you've never seen before. The summer section calls to you next, and as you approach it, you can already feel the heat radiating from the boundary. When you step through, it hits you like a physical force, the air thick and hot and dry, pulling moisture from your skin. The landscape stretches before you, sand, cacti, rocks baking in the relentless sun. The air shimmers with heat waves, distorting your vision. Summer, the season of endurance and strength. Prove your resilience. You can see it ahead, the far edge of the summer section. But between you and it lies what looks like at least 50 meters of this brutal heat. Already you're sweating, your robes feeling heavy and suffocating. Shield charms, Vivian says immediately, her competitive nature emerging. We need to protect ourselves from the heat. She casts first, a shimmering bubble of magic forming around her, and immediately her expression shows relief. You and Teddy copy her, and the heat becomes bearable, though you can still feel it pressing against your shields. But as you start walking forward, the temperature increases. Your shield begins to waver under the assault, and you have to concentrate harder to maintain it, pushing more magic into the charm. Vivian is ahead of you, her shield strong and steady, and you realize she's much better at this than you are. Her protective magic is powerful, controlled, and she navigates the heat with determination. Come on, she calls back, encouraging. You can do it. Focus on the shield, nothing else. Teddy is struggling too, his face red with effort, but he keeps moving forward. You grit your teeth and pour your concentration into maintaining the shield, one step at a time, the heat pressing in from all sides. When you finally cross the boundary back into the temperate center, you collapse onto the cool stone, gasping. Your shield dissolves, and the relief is immediate. That was brutal, Teddy pants. Vivian is barely winded. She's looking at something in her hand, another token, a small crystal that, despite the heat you just endured, stays perfectly cool to the touch. Summer tests determination and protective magic, she says, and there's satisfaction in her voice. She's found where she excels, and it shows. You rest for a few minutes, drinking water that appears in a stone fountain at the room's center, and then you turn your attention to autumn. The autumn section looks deceptively peaceful. The forest floor is carpeted in fallen leaves, the colors so rich they seem almost artificial. Mist curls between dark tree trunks, and the air smells of earth and something sweet and decaying. Autumn, the season of change and wisdom. Navigate the unknown. As soon as you step into the autumn environment, the mist thickens. Within seconds, you can barely see Teddy and Vivian beside you, and the trees seem to shift, paths appearing and disappearing. "Stay together," Vivian says, but her voice sounds distant despite her being right next to you. You start walking, trying to find a path through the trees, but every direction looks the same. The mist plays tricks with your vision, making you see things that aren't there, shadows that might be trees or might be something else entirely. But then you feel it, a pull, a current of magic that flows through the forest like an invisible river. You close your eyes, shutting out the confusing visual input, and focus on that feeling. "This way," you say, opening your eyes and choosing a direction that looks no different from any other. "How do you know?" Teddy asks. "I can feel it," you say, though you're not sure how to explain it better than that. The magic, it's flowing in a particular direction. You lead them forward, following that invisible current. And Teddy helps by marking trees as you pass with small chips of bark, making sure you don't walk in circles. The mist continues to obscure everything, but you trust the feeling guiding you, that sense of rightness that grows stronger with each step. Finally, the mist clears, and you find yourselves at the edge of the autumn section, standing before a small pile of leaves that holds a golden leaf, preserved perfectly, that will never wither or decay. "Autumn tests intuition and adaptation," the voice says. "You trusted what you could not see. Well done." You pick up the leaf, and it's lighter than air, warm with magic. 3 tokens collected, 3 challenges completed, 1 remains. The winter section looms before you, and even from a distance, you can see the cold emanating from it, frost creeping across the stone floor at its boundary. Vivian hesitates for the first time, her confidence wavering. "I don't like the cold," she admits quietly. "We'll do it together," Teddy says, and his loyalty, his steadfast support, radiates from him like warmth. You step into winter as a group, and the cold slams into you immediately. It's not the manageable cold of a winter day. It's the kind of cold that steals breath, that makes your bones ache, that threatens to freeze you from the inside out. Snow swirls around you, and ice formations rise like jagged teeth. Winter, the season of rest and reflection. Face what lies dormant within. The environment begins to shift, the snow falling thicker, and suddenly you can't see Teddy or Vivian anymore. You call out, but your voice is swallowed by the wind. You're alone in a winter landscape, and as you turn in a slow circle, you see your reflection in a wall of ice. But it's not just your reflection, it's something more, something deeper. You see yourself as you fear you are, uncertain, never quite good enough, always second-guessing, always wondering if you're smart enough, talented enough, worthy enough. The doubts you carry, the fears you don't voice, they're all there in that icy mirror, staring back at you. The cold deepens, and you realize this is the challenge. Not to overcome the environment, but to overcome yourself. You need to cast a Patronus. You haven't learned the spell yet, won't learn it until next year according to the curriculum, but somehow you know that's what's required. The Patronus charm, the spell that banishes darkness by conjuring pure, positive emotion. You close your eyes, gripping your wand, and reach for a memory. But not just any memory. Something powerful, something true. You think of finding the chamber. You think of Teddy's unwavering friendship, the way he's always believed in you. You think of Vivian joining you despite her pride, showing vulnerability and trust. You think of the three of you working together, different houses, different strengths, united by curiosity and the desire to grow. Expecto Patronum, you whisper. At first, nothing happens. The cold presses in, and your reflection shows you every failure, every doubt. But you think harder, feel deeper. You remember the moment the spring flower bloomed, that sense of accomplishment. You remember Vivian's smile when you completed the summer challenge. You remember the feeling of trusting your instincts in the autumn mist. Expecto Patronum, you say, stronger now. A wisp of silver mist emerges from your wand, weak but present. It's not a full Patronus, not an animal shape, but it's enough. The mist swirls around you, and the darkness in your reflection fades. The cold recedes slightly, and you feel a warmth blooming in your chest that has nothing to do with temperature, and everything to do with realizing that doubt doesn't define you, that fear doesn't make you weak, that acknowledging uncertainty is its own kind of strength. The winter landscape shifts, and suddenly Teddy and Vivian are there again. Teddy looks shaken, tears frozen on his cheeks, but there's a steadiness in his eyes that wasn't there before. Vivian's perfect composure is cracked, her hair mussed, but she stands taller somehow, more solid. You all faced yourselves. You all survived. In the center of the winter section, a snowflake appears, suspended in the air. It doesn't melt despite the slightly warmer temperature where you're standing. You reach out and take it, and it rests in your palm like a tiny miracle. The 4 tokens, spring seed, summer's crystal, autumn's leaf, and winter's snowflake, begin to glow. They pull free from your hands, from Vivian's and Teddy's pockets, and drift toward the central pedestal, circling it before settling into carved indentations in the stone that you hadn't noticed before. Light erupts from the pedestal, not harsh but warm, golden, and the ancient book's pages begin turning on their own, stopping on a new section. The voice speaks again, but this time it sounds closer, more personal. You have completed the seasons. Now see your truth. The magical light swirls, dividing into 3 streams. One wraps around Teddy, one around Vivian, one around you. It's not uncomfortable, just strange, like being examined by something ancient and benevolent. Teddy's light settles, and the voice says, "Your strength lies in earth magic, herbology, creatures, growing things. Loyal and nurturing, you are drawn to magic that connects and sustains." Teddy grins, and it makes perfect sense. Of course, Teddy's magic would be about growth and care and connection. Vivian's light swirls longer, brighter. Your strength lies in elemental magic, fire, water, air, powerful and transformative. You command forces that others can only guide. Vivian's eyes widen, and you can see the hunger in her expression, the desire to master this, to become everything the chamber says she can be. Your light continues the longest, swirling around you in patterns that feel searching, questioning. You wait, heart pounding, wondering what the chamber sees in you. Finally, your strength lies in temporal magic, rare gift. You sense the flow of time, the layers of magic in ancient places. This is why you found the chamber. You sensed it across time. You stand frozen, the words washing over you without fully connecting. Temporal magic, time magic. That's, Vivian starts, then stops, her expression shifting to something like awe. That's incredibly rare. There are only a handful of temporal mages per century. What does it mean, you ask, and your voice sounds small in the vast chamber. The book on the pedestal glows, and images appear above it, ghostly and translucent. You see yourself throughout the years at Hogwarts, always drawn to the oldest parts of the castle, running your hands over ancient stones, finding objects others had lost, sensing presences in empty corridors, being inexplicably drawn to historically significant places. It means you see what others cannot, the voice explains. The past speaks to you, the echoes of magic long cast, the imprints left by those who came before. You are a bridge between then and now, capable of learning from time itself. You touch the pedestal, and suddenly you can feel it. The layers of magic woven into this room, spells cast centuries ago, still humming with power. The presence of the founders themselves, faint but present, their intentions preserved in every stone. This is extraordinary, Vivian says, and there's no jealousy in her voice, only genuine amazement. Teddy is smiling at you, that proud, supportive smile that says he always knew you were special. What do I do with it? You ask the chamber, the voice, the magic itself. Use this gift wisely, comes the reply. Study the past to illuminate the future. Learn from echoes, walk between moments, and above all, remember, time is not a river flowing one direction, but an ocean with depths and currents and secrets waiting to be understood. You stand there, processing, and gradually become aware that you're different now. Not changed, exactly, but like something dormant has been awakened, acknowledged, given permission to exist. The chamber's light softens, returning to its normal illumination. The chamber closes at equinox's end, the voice says. 3 days remain. You may return to practice or leave knowing you have discovered your paths. Can we come back? You ask immediately. The thought of leaving this place, of not being able to return, fills you with unexpected grief. During equinoxes, always, the chamber waits for those who seek growth. You feel relief wash through you. Twice a year, spring and autumn, you can return. The three of you make your way back to the exit, each lost in thought, processing what you've learned. When you step through the door back into the 4th floor corridor, the castle feels different, or maybe you feel different in it. Lady Cassandra's portrait smiles, all her eyes crinkling with satisfaction. You found it, and yourselves. Well done, young mages. As you walk back through the quiet castle, passing sleeping portraits and empty corridors, you're acutely aware that something fundamental has shifted. You came looking for a legend and found your future. The next few days pass in a haze of wonder and practice. You return to the chamber each evening, and each time feels like coming home. Teddy spends hours in the spring section, working with growing things, and you watch as plants respond to him with increasing enthusiasm. He's a natural, his magic gentle and encouraging, and the meadow blooms brighter whenever he's there. Vivian masters the summer challenges, her elemental magic growing more sophisticated and controlled. She experiments with temperature and airflow, with protection charms and environmental manipulation, and her confidence becomes something solid and earned rather than defensive. You divide your time between autumn and winter, learning to sense the currents of magic more clearly, to read the echoes in the stone. In the autumn section, you practice navigating by feel alone, eyes closed, trusting your temporal sense. In winter, you work on your Patronus, and though it's still just wisps of silver mist, it grows stronger each time. One afternoon, you're leaving the library, headed for the chamber, when Pip Honeycutt appears. "What have you three been doing?" he asks, his eyes bright with curiosity. "You disappear every evening." You exchange glances with Teddy and Vivian. "Practicing," Teddy says carefully. "Special project." "Can I see?" Pip asks hopefully. You consider this. He's young, eager, and desperately lonely. But the chamber said it appears to those ready to learn, and you're not sure a 12-year-old is ready for the challenges you faced. "Maybe next equinox," you say gently. "When you're older, when you're ready." Pip looks disappointed, but accepts this with more grace than you expected. "Okay," he says, and runs off down the corridor, his footsteps echoing. Later that day, you encounter Margot Wren in the corridor. She's carrying a stack of books, but she pauses when she sees the three of you together. "You three seem different," she observes. "More confident, more complete somehow." "We've been studying," Vivian says, which is technically true. Margot smiles knowingly. "Right. Well, whatever you're doing, keep it up. Hogwarts needs students who take their education seriously." She continues on her way, and you wonder if she suspects, if she knows, but you don't ask. The final evening before the other students return arrives too quickly. You make one last visit to the chamber, the three of you standing in the center, looking at the four seasons surrounding you. "This holiday turned out way better than expected," Teddy says, his voice soft in the vast space. "I was dreading 2 weeks alone," Vivian admits. She looks at both of you, and there's vulnerability in her expression, the walls she usually keeps up lowered. "Instead, thank you for letting me join you. We're better as a team," you say, and you mean it with everything you are. "Friends?" Vivian asks, and the word sounds uncertain in her mouth, like she's not sure how to use it. "Friends," you and Teddy say together. The chamber voice speaks one final time. "The equinox ends at dawn. Go forth with your new knowledge. The seasons will return." You take final looks at each section, memorizing them. The spring meadow in eternal bloom, the summer desert shimmering with heat, the autumn forest wrapped in mist and mystery, the winter landscape crystalline and austere. You pause, using your newly awakened temporal sense, and suddenly you can see them. Echoes of past students who found this place. Generations of learners, all discovering themselves here, all walking the same path you've walked. And you see a girl from the 1800s mastering summer's heat. You see a boy from the 1920s navigating autumn's mists. You see countless others, their magical signatures preserved in the fabric of the room like photographs in time. You're part of that history now, part of that lineage of seekers and discoverers. The feeling is overwhelming in the best possible way. You leave the chamber together, and the door fades behind you, becoming wall once more. Lady Cassandra's portrait nods to you. "Until next time, young mages," she says. You walk back through the castle, and though it's the same stones, the same corridors you've walked for 4 years, everything feels different. Tomorrow, the castle fills with returning students, with noise and chaos and normal life. But you carry secrets now, discovered talents, deepened friendships, knowledge of a place that exists outside the normal flow of the school year. As you climb the stairs to Ravenclaw Tower, you pause at a window, looking out over the grounds. The moon is nearly full, casting silver light across the lake. You're a temporal mage. The phrase still feels unreal, too large to fully grasp. You can sense time itself, can read the echoes of magic across centuries, can walk between moments in ways others can't. The implications are enormous, exciting, slightly terrifying. But with Teddy's loyal friendship and Vivian's brilliant mind, with the chamber waiting to welcome you back in 6 months, with magic flowing through you in ways you're only beginning to understand, you feel ready. Ready for whatever comes next. Ready to explore this gift you've been given. Ready to learn, to grow, to discover who you're meant to become. The castle settles around you, ancient and patient, filled with secrets and stories, and you're part of it all, woven into its history, connected to its past and future. You smile, touching the window's cold glass, and whisper to the night and the castle and yourself, "Thank you." And there we are, dear listeners. The holiday has ended, the secret has been discovered, and you've found something you never knew you were looking for. Not just a hidden chamber, but a part of yourself. The Chamber of Seasons will wait for you, appearing twice a year like clockwork, offering its challenges and wisdom to those brave enough to seek it. And you'll return again and again, learning and growing, and mastering the temporal magic that flows through you like a second heartbeat. But for now, rest. Let the magic of the story settle around you like a comfortable blanket. Let the seasons fade into dreams, and know that somewhere in a castle of stone and spell, a chamber waits with infinite patience for your return. Thank you for joining me tonight. Sleep well, dream of magic, and I'll see you in the next adventure. Good night, and may your dreams be filled with wonder.